Hello, I'm Tom Neiman. This is Inside the Summit League. Couple of basketball previews coming up as we get closer to the regular season. The Denver men are the favorites to win the league this year. Head coach Joe Scott talks about his team coming up a little later. And the women of USD won the Summer League tournament last year. We will see what South Dakota has back as the Coyotes aim for a regular season title this year. And speaking of titles, had the first championships of the season over the weekend with first-time team champions in cross-country for both the men and the women. A chilly afternoon in Fargo for the Summit League cross-country championships. The men going 8,000 meters, 54 individuals in the race for the title. Matt Jennings running for the hometown team, and North Dakota State would finish fourth in the team standings, led by Marty Joyce in 8th place overall. IUPUI with 3 runners in the lead pack. The Jags would put 3 in the top 7 individually. University of South Dakota runners in between them at 4th, 5th, and 6th overall. Brendan Sage of South Dakota State will finish 2nd, and everybody behind IUPUI senior Tom Ullman. He leads the Jags to their first Summit League cross-country team championship.
At the start of the race, when we looked so good, I kind of thought, well, hey, here we go. And just waiting for some of the members of the other teams to kind of drop off a little bit, and they did. And some of our kids, like I say, dropped off. But we planned on doing that, so it really wasn't a surprise. I think, if anything, it was more of a relief because we knew how bad we wanted that conference title, and if we would have lost it, it would really, our kids would have been devastated. But to win was a great thrill.
Now, the women's race would also feature a first-time team champion. 64 runners in this competition going 6,000 meters. Good showing for North Dakota State. Taylor Jansen here in the white would finish 10th overall. South Dakota State would put 2 in the top 10 with Jessica Ives and Cheyenne Bowers. South Dakota runners finished 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th, and the Coyotes claim their first ever team championship. But at the wire, the individual winner is Aaron Teschuk. The North Dakota State sophomore finishes 13 seconds ahead of the field in some tough conditions.
It definitely affects you. It affects your time and your race strategy, but we're all running in the same weather, so it's still a competition. It doesn't affect that.
So it is Teschuk in a time of 21:17.4. That is the 3rd fastest ever in Summit League Championship competition. Amber Eichhorn of South Dakota in 2nd at 21:30. She and 3 of her teammates all in the top 6 individually. Brittany Beard of Fort Wayne finishes 4th. And in the team standings, South Dakota takes the title for the first time in school history. More on the Coyotes coming up in a minute. But Teschuk and North Dakota State 2nd, South Dakota State in 3rd place, IUPUI and Omaha in the top 5 for the women. Back to the men, and Tom Ullman of IUPUI on top, 3.5 seconds ahead of Brendan Sage of South Dakota State. South Dakota put 3 in the top 6 with Haas in 4th, Musa in 5th, and Isaac Allen of the Coyotes in 6th place individually. And behind that first place finish from Tom Ullman, IUPUI wins its first men's cross-country championship. Sage leads the Jackrabbits to the runner-up spot just ahead of the Coyotes. North Dakota State and Oral Roberts round out the top 5. Well, the win by the South Dakota women ends a 3-year run by North Dakota State as the team champions. And for the Coyotes, they kind of had a feeling that this was going to be a good year. Here is Alex Heinert with more from Vermilion.
With a deep team coming off a strong season of performances, head coach Dan Fitzsimmons knew his squad was in position to make a run at the title.
Well, we've had a great season. Our women were running really well. We had faced all of our conference opponents throughout the year, and we were very successful, so we were hoping that would continue, but you run conference meets for a reason, and of course that's because nothing's a done deal.
Despite facing a talented field in harsh conditions, the Coyotes essentially made their victory a done deal early on thanks to the effort of their entire team, not just their top 2 or 3 runners.
Amber Eichhorn and Katie Wetstein were battling up there with the North Dakota State runner trying to win the race, but they knew well enough that if they didn't win, that wasn't going to hurt our team chances. And so they finished 2nd and 3rd, and then Bethany Kozak, a freshman, and she was newcomer of the year. She kind of ran through the field and wound up finishing 5th. And then Kelsey Barrett moved up to 6th, and then Nicole Schmidt was 13th. And so real low score. I mean, it's not something we would have anticipated scoring on that day, but certainly we'll take it.
Thanks to those strong finishes, the Yotes cruised to the team victory with 29 points, 31 ahead of second-place North Dakota State, the 3-time defending conference champion. Given the way his team performed and the margin of victory they achieved, we'll take it, might be a bit of an understatement.
The women had asked me, well, how many points do you think we'd need to score to win a conference championship? And I said, if you score under 50, you'll be in the hunt. So to score 29 was just like icing on the cake.
For Fitzsimmons, who was named the Summit League Women's Cross Country Coach of the Year, the conference title is a great accomplishment, but he's quick to point out it wasn't earned by this group of athletes alone.
I've been here 7 years, and we've had 7 years of kids who are committed to the program and to the university. And I think when they woke up this morning or yesterday and saw that we had won, I'm sure they had a little smile on their face because they kind of paved the road for us to do this.
Well, congratulations to the Coyotes, who will be the next champions. The Summit League Women's Soccer Tournament starts this Thursday in Denver. We will run down the final week of the regular season and reveal the Player of the Year honors when we come back.
Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort and Dakota Land Honda. Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Health and your Heartland Chevy dealers.
Well, the Summit League Women's Soccer Championships start this Thursday in Denver. The Pioneers are the defending tournament champions, but South Dakota State will be the top seed this year. Here are the highlights from the final week of the regular season and the Players of the Year just released by the league office. Western Illinois made a nice late season run. They win 2 matches over the weekend, but the Leathernecks just miss out on qualifying for the league tournament. Western beat Omaha on Friday and then outscored South Dakota on Sunday. Sarah Hall scored 2 goals in the first 27 minutes of the match against USD. And then look at this footwork on a goal by Skylar Jessup for Western Illinois. The Leathernecks had a 4-0 lead at the half against the Coyotes, but USD comes back to score 3 in the second half. Western, though, hangs on to win the match 4-3. But even with the 2 weekend wins, Western Illinois finishes at 4-3-1 and in 5th place in the standings, 1 spot out of the playoffs. And that is because North Dakota State got the win it needed on Friday against Oral Roberts. NDSU wins 1-0 on a late goal by Lauren Miller, and that gets the Bison to 4-2-2 in league play, 1 point ahead of Western Illinois for the 4th seed in the league tournament. Now, North Dakota State will play the top seed, South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits earned the number 1 seed with a win over Denver in the final match of the regular season. Alyssa Brazel had a first-half goal for the Jackrabbits. Nicole Hatcher adds 1 in the second half, and the Rabbits win it 2-0, and they earned the regular season championship.
It's a tough season. The Summit League's been crazy this year with teams beating each other left and right. And it comes down to the last weekend. I think there were 7 teams that were still alive for the conference tournament. So there's been a lot of parity this year.
So here's how they will stack up in the league tournament. South Dakota State and North Dakota State in the first match on Thursday. IUPUI and Denver both finished 5-3 in league play, but the Jags beat the Pioneers, so IUPUI goes in as the number 2 seed. Denver is the defending champion, and again, they start tournament play on Thursday in Denver. And hot and fresh from the league office, here are the Players of the Year in women's soccer. Diana Potterveld of South Dakota State on offense. She led the league in assists this year with 11. Hannah Wampler of Omaha is the Defensive Player of the Year. She is a junior from Lincoln, Nebraska. Keeper of the Year is Sierra Bonham of North Dakota State. Led the league in save percentage and goals against average. Chrissy Kirchhoff of IUPUI is the Freshman of the Year. She was 4th overall in total points and led the league with 3 game-winning goals this season. And Lang Wiedemeyer of South Dakota State is the Coach of the Year. Got his 100th Division I win this year in leading the Jacks to the regular season championship. Well, Denver will also host the Men's Soccer Championship starting on November 13th. And going into the final week of the regular season this week, there are literally 20 different scenarios as to who's going to get into the tournament and how they're going to match up. There were only 2 league matchups this past weekend. One of them of note, though, is Western Illinois takes its first league loss at the hands of Oral Roberts. And things got a little chippy in this match. There were cautions and ejections all over the place. 28 fouls called during the match. There were 6 yellow cards. There were 3 red cards. Tempers were hot. Bodies were flying. They were pushing and shoving and pointing fingers and puffing out chests. And they finally did get down to playing some soccer, though. Oral Roberts just 5 shots on goal, but they score twice. Johnny Chavez with one of 2 first-half goals for the Golden Eagles, and 2-0 is the final. And again, it's the first league loss of the season for Western Illinois. The regular season ends on Saturday. Western Illinois can still clinch the top seed with a win or a tie at Denver. And every team still has a chance to at least tie for 3rd place in the league standings, which means that every team still has a chance to make the top 4 and qualify for the postseason tournament. One other men's soccer note, IUPUI beat Denver on Halloween night. Another shutout for Jags keeper Eduardo Cortez. He is the league player of the week for the 7th time in his career. That ties him for the most ever, and he says that he and his team are putting it together at the right time.
At the beginning of the year, we have a lot of freshmen stepping in, and I mean, it's always difficult for freshmen to step in and just keep the team chemistry going. But I mean, we got a group of guys that are doing really well now, showing up in training. Intensity's there, you can see it now, and we're coming as a group, and we're hitting the stride at the end of the year. That's when we need to do it.
Well, he leads the league in saves right now. The Jags will finish up the regular season with a match at Omaha on Saturday. And in volleyball, IUPUI and North Dakota State are hot right now. IUPUI has won 7 matches in a row. The Jags are now 9-2 in league play. North Dakota State has won 5 in a row, and the Bison have beaten league leaders Denver and South Dakota in their last 2 matches. Denver, though, continues to hold a slim lead in the standings. The Pioneers beat Western Illinois pretty handily on Sunday afternoon. Western had the block going early in the match, but Nola Basie goes diagonal for the kill there. She had 13. Ruth Okoye added a half dozen kills, and Denver downs the Leathernecks in straight sets. So with 3 weeks left to play in the regular season in volleyball, Denver still in first by just half a match, though, over IUPUI. And then North Dakota State has tightened things up in the middle with those 5 wins in a row. And in the big match of the upcoming weekend, the Bison will play at IUPUI this Saturday. When we come back on Inside the Summit League, women's basketball, the defending Summit League tournament champions from South Dakota, look like they're going to be pretty good again. We'll find out why next.
Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort and Dakota Land Honda. Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Health and your Heartland Chevy dealers.
Well, it is exhibition season right now in women's basketball. Real games will get going on November 14th, and it's going to be real interesting to see if South Dakota can keep it going. The Coyotes won their first Summit League tournament last year. Let's see what they've got coming back this year.
Well, I've been pleased with the way our team's been approaching practice, and you know, they're really motivated. I think that we had a taste of some success at the end of last season, and that has made our girls very hungry to try to get back and feel that again. And so they've been extremely motivated. They're working really hard, and I couldn't be more pleased with the effort and energy that we're seeing every day in practice so far. And I think that when we got back from the NCAA tournament, we talked to our girls about taking some time off and trying to really kind of take a little time to mentally refresh, and within a week we're having to kind of kick kids out of the weight room and out of the gym. They're just hungry, kind of chomping at the bit to get back in there, and I think it's just been, you know, a really productive off season for our girls, and they've been you know, trying to find ways to continue to just improve and get better, and you know, I've just told them to really, we've really focused on trying to you know, just stay locked in with the process, and knowing, you know, that every day when we come and lace the shoes up, we got to work hard every day, and if we fall in love with the process, then we're going to be happy with the outcome. It's definitely going to be one of our most challenging non-conference schedules that we've faced, and you know, very difficult November, where you're pretty much on the road that entire month, and playing some really difficult and tough opponents. So it's going to be a really tough challenge and test for our team early, but we hope that it helps to prepare us for those rigors that we have once we get into Summit League play. We certainly are not losing sight of the fact that we lost a pretty major piece in Polly Harrington, and she was spectacular just with her motivation and kind of being a leader and keeping everybody together in the tough times, and I think that will remain to be seen, but it is very nice to have several returners to be able to kind of surround our one freshman and a couple transfers that are trying to grasp onto things here early, and you know, everybody kind of picks things up just a little quicker when they've been through it before, and that's a huge benefit for us.
Well, USD will open the season on November 14th at Drake. Everybody else, meanwhile, is playing exhibition games right now. Oral Roberts took on Rockhurst of Kansas City. Oral Roberts has a 6'7" senior center named Vicky McIntyre. She played 2 seasons at Oklahoma State, played 1 season at Florida, and then sat out and redshirted last season at Oral Roberts. She's from Omaha originally. She's number 34 here, and she is very good. McIntyre with 14 points and 16 rebounds as Oral Roberts wins this one by 33 points. South Dakota State, the defending Summit League regular season champions, opened the exhibition season this week with a 37-point win over South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. The Jackrabbits have a freshman center named Ellie Thompson, who had 15 points and 8 rebounds in 14 minutes of play. Freshman point guard Macy Miller had 11 points and 2 assists as the Rabbits roll in this one. And it was a doubleheader with the South Dakota State University men. Tech with some execution off the opening tip, but the Jackrabbits get it going with DeAndre Parks. He is a JUCO transfer, and they're going to look to him for some scoring this year. He led the Jacks with 15 points in this game. And look at this block on the far end by freshman Ian Tyson. Out to redshirt freshman Skylar Flatten, and he will get it out to sophomore Anders Broman for 3. And the Jacks warm up with a 76-54 win over South Dakota Tech. Well, nobody is real sure who the best men's team in the league is going to be this year. We will drop in on Denver when we come back and see what the Pioneers have cooking.
Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort and Dakota Land Honda. Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Health and your Heartland Chevy dealers.
Well, everybody agrees, in the media anyway, that the men's basketball race is going to be wide open this year, and everybody agrees that Denver might have a leg up on everybody else. Here's a preview with head coach Joe Scott.
I like what I've been seeing. You know, we sort of have 6 veterans and 6 freshmen. 2 of them are redshirt freshmen, but it's about merging, you know, getting one really good group out of all 12 of those guys. And, you know, right now we feel pretty good that we have 12 players. We got 12 guys that we think can help. And can we have a way throughout the season to keep developing guys, so that at different points in the season, you know, guys poke their head up and they're getting in there and they're giving us contributions. I mean, in Brett's case, I think it's you know, they don't mean anything, preseason honors, but what it does indicate is he obviously had a really good year last year, you know, and he did. And he's a returning first-team All-League player, and we're glad that he's back. He's started every game in his career, and like we've talked about before, we're looking for him to step up leadership-wise, to really play like a senior who knows it's his last go-round. He's got one more crack at it. Have this be the most important thing to him, and go out there at practice every day, every game, every practice, be ready to go and lead in that manner. And he's done a pretty good job of that, but we need him to, again, we need him to do it all season. You know, we need him to be doing it now. He's got to do it through December and January and February, and if we can do that, then come March, he'll be playing at a really high level. We have a really hard schedule again. I mean, I think when you look at our schedule, it's loaded with what some people would say mid-majors, which is just a term, but very good historical basketball, tradition-rich mid-major programs. You know, when you talk about St. Joe, PA, out of the Atlantic 10, they're coming here. Obviously, Colorado State and Wyoming, regional rivals for us out of the Mountain West. Northern Iowa, who's picked to be really good this year, who we've already played in the past. Out of the Missouri Valley, coming here. So we have a really good schedule. We go to Stanford, we go to St. Mary's. So that's the kind of program that we came here to try to build. We play that kind of schedule. We've been doing it consistently. Our experiences last year have to help. Now that being said, Fort Wayne's going to be good. They were good last year. They're going to be good again. North Dakota State and South Dakota State have sort of been the teams in this league over the last, say, 3-4 years. Well, I expect them to continue to be good, and you threw Oral Roberts in there, who is has good basketball tradition. Basketball is very important at Oral Roberts, and they're coming back in our league. So this is going to be a very, very competitive league, and we're going to have to use our non-conference schedule and our experience to our advantage, so that come league play, we're ready night in and night out.
Well, Denver will be one of the last men's teams to get going this year. They will host Idaho State in their season opener on November 16th. When we come back, Player of the Week honors and one coaching note of note at North Dakota State.
Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort and Dakota Land Honda. Inside the Summit League on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Health and your Heartland Chevy dealers.
One Summit League coaching note this week: North Dakota State has hired Stevie Keller as its women's track and field and cross country coach. He had been the interim head coach, and he replaces Ryan Godfrey, who had moved on to Kansas State University. We'll have the wrap on the women's soccer championships next week here on the show. Here are your players of the week. We'll see you next week on Inside the Summit League.